You have the same 24 hours, the same two hands, the same basic human brain that has been running on roughly the same hardware for the last 200,000 years. And yet, somewhere out there, certain people are building things that change the world while you are standing exactly where you were 5 years ago. That is not an accident. And it is not luck. The real reason is far stranger than anything they tell you in a self-help book. It starts with a question that evolutionary psychologists have been wrestling with for decades. Why do some humans obsess while others settle? Why does one person see a gap in the world and spend every waking hour trying to fill it, while another person sees the exact same gap, shrugs, and goes home? The answer reaches back further than ambition. It reaches back to the oldest survival systems your brain has ever run. Your brain was not built to build empires. It was built to survive winter. It was built to conserve energy, avoid unnecessary risk, and return to baseline as fast as possible. Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky spent decades studying the biology of human behavior and found something that should stop you cold. The brain's default mode is not ambition. It is energy conservation. Every time you choose comfort over effort, your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It is keeping you alive. But then how do certain people override it? The answer lies in a system your brain runs called the dopamine reward pathway. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. That is wrong. Dopamine is the anticipation chemical. It does not fire when you get the reward. It fires when you expect the reward is coming. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz spent years mapping this system and discovered something extraordinary. The brain releases its biggest dopamine surge, not at the moment of achievement, but at the moment the brain calculates that the reward is possible. That spike is what drives behavior. That spike is what makes certain people unable to stop. Here is the difference. Most people's dopamine system fires when they imagine a finished product, a completed goal, a finished life. The spike comes, then it fades, then the couch wins. But people who build empires have trained their dopamine system to fire at the process itself. The next call, the next problem, the next iteration. They are not chasing the outcome. They are addicted to the forward motion. And that is a fundamentally different relationship with effort. This is not personality. This is conditioning. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck spent 30 years studying why some people push through failure while others collapse under it. Her conclusion was not about intelligence. It was not about talent. It was about what people believe effort means. People who build empires believe that difficulty is data. That resistance means they are close to something worth finding. People who stand still believe that difficulty means they are not cut out for this. The same external experience produces two completely different internal signals. One person hears a wall and turns around. The other hears a wall and asks what is on the other side. You were taught which one to be, probably before you turned 10. Now here is where it gets strange, because the people who build empires are not just wired differently. They are operating on a fundamentally different time horizon than everyone around them. Psychologist Philip Zimbardo, best known for the Stanford prison experiment, spent the latter half of his career studying time perspective. He found that humans fall into distinct categories based on how they mentally represent time. Most people live in what he called the hedonistic present. They are optimizing for how they feel right now. A smaller group lives in what he called the future-focused orientation. They are constantly running mental simulations of consequences, possibilities, and compounding trajectories years ahead of the present moment. The empire builders are living 3 moves ahead while everyone else is watching the current play. And here is what compounding actually means when it applies to a human life. It is not just money. It is skills. It is decisions. It is the habits that run quietly in the background, accumulating advantage or accumulating drift. Every day that you make a slightly better decision than yesterday, you are not moving one step ahead of where you were. You are multiplying, because the skill you built yesterday makes the skill you build tomorrow faster and easier to acquire. The decision you made last month gave you information you would not otherwise have had today. This is not metaphor. This is the literal mathematics of skill acquisition that cognitive scientists have been documenting since K. Anders Ericsson published his landmark research on expert performance in the 1990s. Expertise does not accumulate linearly, it compounds. But there is a catch that most people never hear about. Compounding only works in one direction at a time. Every day you do not move, you are not staying still. You are compounding in reverse. The skills you do not practice atrophy. The habits you do not build calcify into their opposites. The time you spend in comfort today costs you more than just today. It costs you the version of tomorrow that could have been built on today. This is what most people do not feel until it is already years behind them. The people who build empires feel it every single day. That is why they cannot stop. They are not more motivated than you. They are more afraid of stillness than you are. And that fear is not weakness. It is an accurate read of what stillness actually costs over time. There is one more piece of this that almost nobody talks about. Environment. Your brain is constantly scanning its surroundings to calibrate what is normal, what is possible, and what is expected of people like you. Anthropologist Joseph Henrich has written extensively on how humans are fundamentally cultural learners. We do not form our beliefs about what is achievable from logic alone. We form them from what we watch people around us achieve. When you spend your years surrounded by people who have accepted their ceiling, your brain quietly accepts it too. Not because you chose to, because your brain is doing what it evolved to do. It is reading the social environment and updating its model of reality accordingly. The empire builders did not become immune to this. They just curated their environment with the same intentionality they applied to everything else. They put themselves inside rooms where their current ceiling was someone else's starting point. And their brain, doing exactly what a human brain does, recalibrated upward. So here is the strange truth underneath all of it. The gap between you and the people who build things that last is not talent. It is not luck. It is not even discipline in the way you have been told. It is the compounding result of thousands of small decisions about where to direct attention, what to believe difficulty means, how far ahead to think, and who to let define the upper boundary of what is normal. You have the same 24 hours, the same two hands, the same ancient brain. What differs is what you have trained that brain to do with them. And unlike almost every other thing in your life, that part is still being written, part is still